Dare to enter Crow's Quill's books, where tales of forgotten realms and fearless souls come alive. Today's journey, Plato Wyngard and the Valley of the Immortals, chapters 8 to 11, by Mark and James Lindsay. Will you uncover the truth hidden in the shadows? Chapter 8. They drove to the outskirts of the city in a nondescript car. Plato parked a kilometer from the location of the Lotus Temple Monastery, not wanting to draw attention to their destination. The two men walked in silence. The Lotus Temple was one of the very few ancient orders still operating in Hanoi. Its respected sanctuary had survived, despite the ravages of war. The temple presided over 20 acres of beautifully landscaped orchards and gardens, in which the beautiful lotus was allowed to grow like weeds nearly everywhere. Everything within the confines of the 12-foot timber fence had been built hundreds of years earlier. Stone, timber, and more importantly, sweat, kept the temple looking exactly the same as it had been when first constructed. The monks in the temple lived by a simple code: faith, learning, and charity, all of which the monks carried out with great diligence and zeal. Sticking to the shadows, they arrived at the entrance to the monastery. Two large timber doors as high as the surrounding fence, wide enough to fit a truck through and framed with large slabs of stone. Each one had blessings carved into its face. A large brass bell was positioned to one side, its purpose to alert the monks to visitors. It was rarely used, as most people only arrived during daylight hours when the gates were always open. It was known by most that due to the monks' code, they retired early for the evening to engage in prayer and rest. Luther and Plato regarded the large doors. "I don't really want to ring that bell, but at the same time I'm not too keen on breaking in either," Plato said. "Well, one way or another, we need to get in," Luther said, inspecting the height of the walls. "Who calls at this late hour?" A voice sounded on the other side of the gate. "We apologize for the lateness of our visit. My name is Plato and my associate is Luther. We have come looking for the monk," Plato called back. "This is highly irregular. Come back tomorrow and you can see one of the monks then," the voice called back. "I'm afraid this is rather irregular business. Also, we haven't come to see a monk," Luther added. "If you haven't come to see a monk, then why have you come?" the voice called back. "Not a monk, the monk," Plato said, trying to keep the frustration from his voice. There was a long silence. "We were sent here. It concerns the four immortals." Another long silence. "This is getting us nowhere," Luther growled, just as the gate cracked open with a loud groan of its timbers. A small bald head appeared in the gap, the symbol of harmony tattooed on his temple, marking him as a monk of the order. "What did you just say?" the monk inquired. "He said, the four immortals," Luther repeated. The monk's eyes went wide, which would have been a lot more comical under other circumstances. The monk looked around quickly, then motioned them both in. The little monk led them by torchlight along a cobbled path. In the distance, they could see the stone and timber temples where the monks resided. A soft glow emanated from the windows. "So, how many of you live here?" Luther asked in an attempt to make small talk. "Shh," the monk hissed, and doubled his pace towards the largest temple in the center of the commune. They arrived at another large timber door, and the little monk steadied himself, then knocked 3 times, pounding hard with the bottom of his fist. There was another long pause, then the sound of someone making his way to greet them, his bare feet padding along the floor. The door opened slowly, and another monk emerged, this one taller, in his mid-50s, Plato guessed, and a rather stern expression on his face. "Brother Khan, do you have any idea what time it is?" Whatever the problem, it can wait till morning, the stern monk said, not even seeing the other two figures standing behind him. Brother C, you know I would never interrupt your evening prayer if it were not of great importance, Brother Khan said. Brother Sai's eyes narrowed in suspicion. So what is this grave emergency that couldn't wait until morning? Brother C asked. Brother Khan took a step back and pointed to the dark figures of Plato and Luther, who tried valiantly to appear non-threatening and failed utterly. What are these two foreigners doing here at this hour? Brother C asked. They said they had urgent news about the four immortals. They want to see the monk, Brother Khan said, causing Brother C to let out an involuntary gasp. Bring them in, Brother C said gravely, and all four men entered the temple. After introductions were made, Brother C led them down a long corridor that eventually opened out into a large dining hall. Brother C steered them towards the nearest table. Please take a seat. Brother Khan, see to our guests, provide them with tea, Brother C said. That won't be necessary, Plato interjected. Brother C gave him a stern look, then turned back to the other monk. I'm Brother Khan. See to our guests, Brother C said, in a tone that left no room for interpretation. I shall return soon. The monks departed, leaving the two ex-soldiers to contemplate the day's events. Brother C returned to a silent room. The monk will see you now, Brother C said, then led them away. So why do you refer to him as the monk? I mean, aren't you all monks, or is he like the head monk? Luther asked as they walked the dimly lit corridors. We don't have a leader as such, only those who are appointed tasks, like Brother Sai, who is what you would call an administrator here, Brother Khan said. What about you? Luther asked. Me. I'm one of a group who watch the gate, Brother Khan said with pride. And the monk, what's his purpose? Plato asked. We refer to him as the monk, but that is something which is not common knowledge. The monk has dedicated his entire life in the pursuit of his calling, Brother Sai said. I'm not sure I follow, Plato said. In all my years here, the monk is the most pure person that I have ever met. Even people of the cloth are prone to self-doubt or have a bad day. There are even others, such as myself, with abrasive personalities, Brother Su said. Khan was about to object, but C silenced him with a wave of his hand. It's true. I know my personality, but I strive to do better, and it's because of the monk, Mr. Plato. Just Plato, he interrupted. Plato, you ask what the monk does here. He gives us faith, Brother C said with a warm smile. We're here. Now before we enter, the monk is very old and deaf, so you'll have to speak clearly so he can read your lips. Please don't look away and converse. It would be very impolite, Brother Sai said. Of course, Plato replied. The monk will respond through sign language and I will translate, Brother Sai instructed. They entered the monk's study, a Spartan room with the bare essentials, the only exception a beautiful red rose on his nightstand. The monk was sitting up in his bed. His body was withered with age, his face lined and ancient, but there was a spark in both eyes that told of a sharp mind. Luther and Plato stepped forward. Sir, we are sorry to disturb you at such a late hour, Plato said. The monk nodded and proceeded to communicate using sign language. He says not to concern yourselves with apologies, and that he's glad to receive visitors, Brother Sai said. The reason that we're here concerns the four immortals, Plato said. The monk thought this over, then proceeded to sign. He says that he is well aware of the legend of the four immortals. Why the sudden interest now? Brother C translated. Plato gave Luther a knowing look. The big man nodded back. So for the next half hour, Plato regaled the monks with their involvement with Tan Vien. Once he finished, Plato pulled from his pocket the ivory coin Mr. Chu had given him and handed it to the monk. There was silence as the monk processed all that he had heard. Then a warm, genuine smile appeared on his face, and he made a gesture with his hands. "What did he say?" Plato asked. "He said, 'It is time,'" Brother C said. "What does that mean?" Luther asked. But before Brother C could respond, the monk threw the covers from his bed and attempted to climb off his bed with no success. The monk sighed with a wistful smile. "May I?" Luther asked, and the monk nodded, then pointed to a spot on the wall. Everyone, including the other monks, looked confused. The monk pointed again, this time more forcefully. Plato moved and inspected the area on the wall where the monk was pointing. Plato looked back, and the monk nodded. Plato inspected the large stone block, tapping it with his finger. There was a hollow sound. Everyone looked surprised. Plato tapped the surrounding bricks and felt nothing but solid stone, pulling an object from his pocket. He opened a small folding knife and proceeded to dig at the mortar around the hollow block. After several minutes, Plato had managed to clear a hollow around the block, and with the help of Luther, he slid the hollow block out and inspected its contents. A piece of cloth was rolled up within the block, as well as a brass key and an oddly shaped medallion. The monk clapped with joy and motioned for the cloth to be passed to him. Plato handed the items over carefully. The monk slowly unrolled the cloth, revealing a vague-looking map. There were writings and points marked on the map, but neither Luther nor Plato could understand the language. The monk touched the map, then pointed to both the men. "He's saying that you need to take the map and these items to the mountain and return to the spot where Tan Vien was taken. Then all will be revealed," Brother Sai translated. "Is that it?" Luther said, frustrated. "I mean, all this is fascinating, but I need something more to go on than this." The monk motioned for Plato and Luther to move closer, which they did, both men standing by the bed. The monk gestured. "He wants you to hold out your hands," Brother C directed them. Plato shrugged and did what he was asked. After a small pause, Luther followed suit. The monk smiled and with both hands grasped theirs. It was a bit like having a small charge of electricity pass through them, but it was more than that. A warm feeling of contentment and purpose seemed to fill both men. The monk's eyes seemed to twinkle, not just with intelligence, but also a compassion that seemed to peer into their very souls. The monk released his grip. The two men seemed slightly dazed, and after a moment they stared, first at each other, then the monk. "What just happened?" Plato asked. Both monks C and Khan looked on with expressions of bewilderment. "I don't know. I have heard stories about the monk performing miracles but never actually witnessed it," Brother Sai muttered. "Are you still having doubts?" Plato asked. It took Luther a few seconds to respond, but his face was now full of determination. "None whatsoever," Luther said, his voice firm. "I promise we won't," Plato finished mid-sentence as he gazed down at the still figure of the monk. In alarm, he checked the pulse. Then his shoulders slumped. "He's gone," Plato said, his voice drenched in sadness. "I'm so sorry. If we hadn't visited, with all of this excitement, he wouldn't have passed." Brother C placed a reassuring hand on Plato's shoulder. "Don't apologize. The monk wouldn't have wanted it, and from what I've just witnessed, he knew you were coming. I think that maybe this was preordained," Brother C said, with the first real smile of the night. "I'm not sure that I believe in that sort of thing. Plato said. Then don't, but believe in what you think is right, Brother C said, then scooping up the map and the other items. Take these and come. You need to leave. From what you've already told us, others may be on the way, Brother Sai said. A burst of gunfire could be heard outside the compound. The Wraith had tracked them down in record time. Not if what you're suggesting is true. Then we stay and fight, Luther growled. The monk knew how important this is. You need to go at once. But please don't concern yourself with our welfare, Brother C said with a grin. Then in he moved with blinding speed and struck the block on the bed, shattering it in half. Despite our faith, we have always practiced the ancient arts. Brother Can will show you the way out, while I organize a reception for your friends, Brother Sai instructed. Luther and Plato shook the older monk's hand. We appreciate your help, Luther said. I hope you're successful with your mission. Good luck, Brother C said, and Brother Khan escorted them away. Chapter 9, Plato and Luther emerged from a sewer tunnel at the foot of the Red River. After leaving Brother Can and Brother C, they followed a series of tunnels through stench and sludge. Eventually, the tunnels led to an opening where they could see the glow of light ahead. Did you think that 24 hours ago we would have stormed a brothel, watched a monk die, and escaped through a secret tunnel from an ancient monastery into the sewer system? Asked Luther. Don't forget, putting up with your rotten smell, replied Plato with a wink. So, I guess we head up the mountain, said Luther, ignoring the joke. Nope, replied Plato. Well, we'll have a shower first, obviously, said Luther. The night's not over yet. We have one more job to do. Then it's up the mountain, said Plato. And what's that? Asked Luther. A couple of hours later, it couldn't have been a more different scene. Plato and Luther were sitting in one of the box seats of the Thang Long Opera Theater, listening to a mix of Italian and Vietnamese opera, dressed in tuxedos and smelling vastly different from the sewerage sludge from earlier. A man in a white tuxedo sat behind them. 10 minutes into the night's entertainment, he leant forward and whispered, Aircraft fuel, easy. Explosives, easy. Firearms, easy. Manpower, not easy. I'm not going to be able to accompany you two on this job, White Tuxedo said, looking sheepish. Is everything all right, Bao? Luther asked, concerned. There was a long pause. It's my mother-in-law's birthday. If I miss it, I may as well take on the Wraith myself, said Bao, looking suddenly embarrassed. Don't sweat it. You haven't had a holiday in a long time, Plato said. Yeah, I wouldn't want to get on the bad side of Lian. The Wraith would be a cakewalk in comparison, Luther mocked. It's fine, though. We definitely could have used you, but we'll get by, Plato said. Hey, just because I can't come out to play doesn't mean I'm leaving you short-handed. When I deliver your items, I'm also giving you Nat. He's my nephew, Bao said. I appreciate the sentiment, but this job isn't exactly the sort of time to be cutting one's teeth, if you get my meaning, Plato said. He's right. This is going to be rough, Luther added. Staki, and you were going to risk me, Bao said. Plato and Luther were about to interject, but Bao waved them down. I'm joking, but not about Nat. He's a cocky bastard, but he's a jack of all trades. Worked with Australian forces from 69 to 72. He keeps a cool head in a tight spot, Bao said. Then it settled. Are you sure you can make our deadline? Luther asked. Of course, even with all the heat you've created, Bao said with a smirk. Both ex-soldiers tried to look innocent of the accusation. Everything will be there and loaded, including your other cargo and nhat, Bao said. Take an extra 5% for yourself. Buy Lian something pretty, Plato said, shaking Bao's hand. Or maybe buy Tam something nice instead, Luther said with a grin. Bao turned white. You know about my mistress, but, I've been so discreet, Bao said. Plato and Luther struggled to keep from laughing. Yeah, you've been a regular vault of secrecy. Plato sniggered, and Luther followed suit. Don't worry. I'm sure Lian is completely in the dark, Luther said, choking back tears of laughter. Bao muttered his goodbye and wandered out through the exit. She's going to find out one of these days, Luther said, wiping the tears from his eyes. And when she do, I don't want to be anywhere near him, Plato said soberly. Chapter 10. Luther and Plato arrived at their hangar at 2 a.m. True to his word, Bao had everything packed and ready to go. Also waiting for them was a royally pissed Bian and Bao's nephew, Not. As the two men approached, Bian was the first one to reach them. Her stance and attitude alerted Plato to her discontent. Ah, Ms. Lamb, I see that you made it. Again, I'd like to apologize about the time of departure, but you can stick your apology. I just ran a quick check on my cargo, and wasn't I shocked to find another pallet loaded? Bian thundered. Miss Lamb, I can explain everything once we've... Bian silenced Plato with a wave of her hand. Enough with the lies. Are you using me to transport weapons across the country? Bian asked angrily. Plato looked to Luther with a look that said, Are you going to help? Luther shook his head. You're on your own, brother, Luther said, and walked off to meet his new employee. Plato sighed as Miss Lamb gave him the 3rd degree. Halfway through her rant, Luther raced over and interrupted. Oh, thank God, said Plato. I was just chatting with our new hand, Not, Luther said, harried. Plato looked over at the young man leaning against the plane, smoking a cigarette. Hey, you idiot! Put that out! Plato yelled. Nat didn't look too worried as he took another drag, then put the cigarette out on the side of the plane. Great. Rebel without a clue. Listen to me. Luther grabbed Plato by the shoulder. Nat's just informed me that there's a warrant out for the arrest of. And Luther pointed subtly towards Plato and then himself. Plato took a deep breath. How long have we got? Plato had barely uttered the words when the sound of sirens could be heard in the distance. Right. Plato turned to Bian. Yes. I have weapons and other things on that plane. Number. I'm not going to sell, distribute, or barter them away. They are ours, for use in the case of an emergency. Now, while I can appreciate your concerns and worries, I still have a timeline to hit. So if you're through with the questions, how about we board my plane and depart? Plato said firmly. Timeline. We still have an hour before departure. Bian asked, confused. The sound of police sirens was getting louder. We've just been bumped up. Plato was seated in the pilot's seat, frantically checking the instruments and dials in front of him when Luther joined him. They're all strapped in. Are we ready for takeoff? How are we looking here? Luther asked. I'm so glad you organized to fuel up earlier in the day, Plato said. It's never good to leave the bird empty. You never know when you might need to fly out in a hurry, Luther said, and climbed into the seat opposite. The sirens were getting louder by the second. Time to get going, Plato said. Luther nodded and proceeded to fire up the engines. The propellers on their Fairchild C-123 provider whined as they began to spin slowly at first, then burst into speed. The two men could now see police cars pulling up at the cyclone fences that lined the runway. "This is going to be tight," Luther grimaced as he gave the plane more throttle. The engines responded with a roar as they started to roll away from the hangar. Plato watched as the police looked for a way to get through the fence. "You're not wrong, mate," Plato said as he proceeded to flip switches on the overhead display. The police were now blowing whistles. Someone had managed to cut the padlocks on the gate and they were spilling through the opening. "I'm not even going to call this through," Luther said, eyeing the radio above his head. "I agree," Plato replied. Luther took a deep breath and pushed on the controls. The Fairchild accelerated towards the runway, with police running behind on foot. A few were now firing warning shots into the air. "Yeah, that'll make me stop," Luther laughed, and Plato joined in. The Fairchild had now reached an acceptable speed, and with a gentle touch from Luther, it eased into the night air. The responding police had now stopped their advance, realizing its futility, and now watched as the blinking taillights of the plane disappeared into the darkness. Plato sniffed the air and screwed up his nose. "Is that you, or is there still some Agent Orange residue in here?" "This thing has been scrubbed cleaner than a Jade Palace worker," replied Luther. "Whatever it is, it's nasty," replied Plato, who then noticed Knot standing over their shoulders looking through the windscreen. "Is this bucket of bolts going to make it up the mountain?" asked Knot. "Don't you worry about this thunderpig, boy, she'll get us up and down," replied Luther without turning to look at Knot. "It's going to get bumpy, so how about you head on back and strap yourself in?" Plato turned, and Knot was already gone. "I still haven't warmed to him." "Yeah, I get the same feeling. But if Bao trusts him, so do I," said Plato. Chapter 11. 3 men dressed sharply in dark suits stood over the huddled figure of a naked man. "I told you. I don't know where the Wraith took it. I never even saw it, so I wouldn't even know if it was sitting right in front of me," whimpered the naked man. "You know," replied one of the men in a quiet but forceful manner. "We know you know. We also know you're a family man. We would honestly hate to have to pay them a visit, but we're invested in a most important race, a race which we have no intention of losing." "I only know that it's no longer here," the naked man sobbed. "We already got that piece of information from the madam. Apparently you overheard the Wraith say something to the Viper while you were huddled under a bed," replied the man impatiently. "What did you hear?" "Nothing, 249 Com Tien. Dear God, not my family. Where did the Wraith take Tan Vien?" "Please, just let me go," the naked man continued to sob. One of the 3 men leant in really close. One of his eyes was a milky white in color, useless, the flesh surrounding it scarred and ugly. His other eye was a brilliant blue in color, full of intelligence and menace. "I swear you'll talk, or so help me, you'll wish you were dead." That seals today's tale in shadows. We hope Plato Wyngard and the Valley of the Immortals has drawn you deeper into its enigma. Return soon to Crow's Quills books, where the next chapter awaits, whispering secrets yet untold.